This is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
1, get your vaccine. 2, it's real and it's still here and hard. This is hard.
Local medical experts are starting to see an uptick in COVID-19 patients. I'm Janelle Slade. Tonight we talk with them to tell you why they're concerned.
My name's Shaquille Kozar. New angled back-end parking is good for some, but a nightmare for others. But why did they do this? And how are people reacting to it? We'll have those details coming up.
But first, a fast-moving wildfire sparked in Musselshell County this afternoon, and tonight fire crews still trying to keep that fire from threatening homes and other property. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Wildfires continue to be a concern with the hot, dry conditions. About 250 homes were under pre-evacuation orders south of Roundup, but we have learned that those orders are expected to be lifted shortly. Let's check in with Q2's David J., who's in Musselshell County tonight.
Russ, we're up here on Jeffrey Mine Road outside of Roundup. This is where the biggest fire is. They do have 3 up here. The others are at Queen City Road, but those are a little bit smaller. But this is the one they're worried about, the Jeffrey Mine Road fire. We're also told that just over the hill there near Johnny Cole Road that they're doing some evacuations at this time. So that's where the worst part of it is. They do have things set up at the fairgrounds for people with cattle if they want to bring them there. Also the Red Cross, we're told, is in the town of Roundup. But for right now, the biggest problem right now is in that direction, southeast to here, southeast of Jeffrey Mine Road, where they're doing evacuations down there in the Johnny Cole subdivision.
Things are standing pretty good right now. We had quite a few air resources come in to put in some line for us that was inaccessible for our engines, and then we have a dozer line tying in, cutting fire off from going into the Johnny Cole subdivision. Most homes, we had a pretty good buffer. However, just over the hillside here, you can see that windmill up there. That is an actual structure that it burned all the way around. Crews were able to get up there and protected it from catching fire.
Once again, they have 3 fires up here, 2 at Queens Point Road. They say 1 is in the mop-up stages, but the worst one is this one at Jeffrey Mine Road, and they are doing those evacuations down there at Johnny Cole Road. Russ, we'll send it back to you.
All right, David J. reporting tonight. That fire quickly grew to about 500 acres and is now about 40% contained. Crews hope to finish up in the next few hours, but we'll be monitoring that situation throughout the weekend. All right, we want to check in with Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh now. And Ed, several fires burning in eastern Montana, but if you're seeing smoke, it might not necessarily be from one of them.
That's right. Let's start off with one of the smaller fires. It's really around the area Custer on I-94 that's causing some reduced speeds and delays there because of smoke across the roadway. But in the big picture, take a look across the entire area of the Pacific Northwest, where a lot of fires have been burning. At one point, we're getting smoke from around British Columbia, even around Manitoba, Winnipeg. Those winds came back into the east, but where you see the big number 1, that's where we're getting most of the smoke now. That's coming from areas of Northern California, Oregon, Idaho, continuing to push a lot of the smoke in. So the red shaded areas show where we're going to continue to see more smoke move into the region here as we get into the next 48 hours. There's where some of that smoke continues to move in. Air quality issues aren't a big problem right now, but those yellow shaded areas show we're starting to get some of the haze. Back with a look at the forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Ed. This year's 4th of July weekend in Montana looked a lot different than last year. In 2020, the state was just beginning to come out of lockdown, and 2 weeks after the holiday, COVID cases took off. Tonight, Q2's Janelle Slade brings us a look at the latest numbers and what local healthcare crews are already seeing.
What a difference a year makes, or not. At this point last year, COVID-19 cases in Montana had just started to take off. Today, local experts fear round 2 is on the way.
Undoubtedly, the hardest part has been making phone calls to family members to tell them that their family members are dying.
Even after 5 years in the Billings Clinic ICU, nurse practitioner Lynn Gordy's voice cracks when she talks about the calls she's had to make over the last year and a half, a job that, as of late, is seeing an uptick.
I'm doing it a little less often, but I'm still doing it. So the phone calls don't get easier.
The latest data show Billings hospitals are averaging more than 21 COVID-19 inpatients a day. About a third of those patients are in intensive care. They're coming in younger and getting sicker sooner.
They're not casually ICU patients, right? These are really sick people that come and stay for a long time and have poor outcomes. We've ranged in the last couple weeks anywhere from 30s to 70s. You know, these are all not 70 and 80-year-olds who are dying.
6 Yellowstone County residents died in June, and so far in July, there have already been 3. Yellowstone County Health Officer John Felton says with only 45% of the eligible residents vaccinated, the county is now averaging 15 to 16 new positive cases each day.
When you think about that, 16 cases a day in a community our size doesn't seem like many, but then you start doing the math, right? So 16 cases a day is 100 cases a week, is 5,000 cases a year. This thing is still here. It hasn't gone anywhere.
In fact, Felton says the COVID-19 variants are just getting stronger and will continue to mutate as long as residents refuse to vaccinate. Of the 33 Delta variant cases detected in Montana, 14 are here in Yellowstone County.
It's much more transmissible. People have gotten really sick with it. It does appear that for all the variants, the current vaccines do a good job of protecting against severe disease, hospitalization, and death. Not 100%, but better certainly than not getting vaccinated.
It's working. I would beg you to get your vaccine. I would encourage people to reach out to someone, maybe your primary care provider, you know, somebody that you trust in healthcare, and get some real knowledge about that vaccine. And if you're on the fence, do it.
So then maybe she can eventually stop making those phone calls. In Billings, Janelle Slade, MTN News.
Also today, Pfizer asked the FDA if it would approve a third booster shot. The company says another shot within 12 months could dramatically boost immunity. President Joe Biden said today that the military mission in Afghanistan, the longest-running war in U.S. history, will conclude on August 31st. Mr. Biden also pushed back against critics who believe the withdrawal is happening too soon.
A mission accomplished moment. What is it?
No, there's no mission accomplished.
How would you describe it?
The mission was accomplished in that we got Osama bin Laden, and terrorism is not emanating from that part of the world.
The president said another year in Afghanistan is not a solution and that he wants to avoid sending another generation of Americans to war. Montana's largest electric utility is proposing big additions to its power supply resources, including the construction of a new gas-fired power plant in Laurel. However, Northwestern Energy's proposals already are facing plenty of scrutiny and criticism, especially the gas-fired plant. Northwestern has been saying for many months it needs more of its own power resources to supply its 380,000 Montana electric customers. And in May, it asked the Public Service Commission to approve a 3-part proposal, including that 175-megawatt natural gas fire plant in Laurel. Northwestern Vice President John Hines says the plant is the first step toward dealing with growing demand for electricity in Montana and the region, and it will cost Northwestern customers close to zero. But critics say they're not convinced the company chose the lowest cost option from a group of bids, and the Northwestern is not providing enough information on the alternatives it rejected.
Saying what were the assumptions that Northwestern was using to come to this requirement in the first place? They're saying we need so much capacity. Well, what were they actually looking at?
Technology is advancing at such a rate that we're convinced that renewables will be the preferred option under any scenario within a decade. And certainly within 3 decades, it'll clean the clock of natural gas or any other fossil fuel burning resource.
Well, the case before the PSC will involve many months of testimony, hearings, and deliberation before a final decision is made. That'll probably take place next year. The addition of two-way traffic and angled back-end parking in downtown Billings, leaving some folks a little confused. Q2's Shaquille Cozart was downtown today to see how it's going and find out more from the city about why those changes were made.
People in downtown Billings are still getting used to the new back-end parking method. And while there's bound to be some hiccups during the adjustment period, why did the city of Billings decide to do this? And how are people in the community reacting to it?
The first couple of days was total pandemonium, total chaos. there were as many people pulling in as there were backing in, and it just looked like one big, huge mess.
Daly, owner of Montana Vintage Clothing, said that as time has gone on, people have started to catch on and back in. But occasionally, there's still someone that pulls in forward and then has to back out into oncoming traffic.
That part is frightening, to say the least, as far as watching it.
Right next door at Yesteryear's Antiques, owner Danny Kramer says this is really just a big adjustment period for downtown, and people will eventually get used to it.
I actually think it's going to help the downtown Billings businesses, because we got two ways of traffic for people to see our businesses now instead of one way, which a lot of people avoided the one-way streets. So
Mac Fogelson, Billings city engineer, said that in 2018 a study was done to determine the best way for overall access and connectivity to businesses downtown. That study determined that two-lane roads and back-end parking would be the best methods. Back-end parking, according to Fogelson, creates a safer position for people to get back into traffic. It also makes it safer for people to get out of their vehicle, unload their vehicle from the back, and safer for backing up. He said that for Billings drivers, there will be a learning curve, but there has already been much improvement. Reporting in Billings, I'm Shaquille Kozar with MTN News.
Still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, a new health clinic is on its way to Lockwood. We'll hear what it means to the community in tonight's Health Watch. Then a little later in sports, Call to the Hall. We'll hear from one Montana Football Hall of Famer who spent a career scheming against some NFL greats. That story coming up in just a bit.